Good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Nersessian with the Education Market Association. I am the exhibits manager for X-Spaces. Today's webinar is being brought to you by the Competitive Edge President and CEO Jefferson Davis. Jefferson is a trainer, consultant, and speaker for the organization. He has just shy of 3 decades worth of experience and has exhibited personally at over 500 trade shows. Good afternoon, Jefferson.
Hey, Michael, how are you? And thanks to everybody for logging in to today's webcast. This is a really important topic, state-of-the-art lead management. I want to do a quick housekeeping because we got a little bit late start here. You should have gotten the e-workbook this morning. I would encourage you to download, print a copy. This is a very interactive, hands-on type session. If you can't find it, look in your junk or your spam filter first. If you still can't find it, send an email right now to Sonia@tradeshowturnaround.com and she will send you the workbook. Second, questions. Anytime during the event today, you'll see on your console a little box that says questions. Type your question, press send. I'll stop at the halfway point and again at the end of the webinar. If you have any technical support issues, call GoToWebinar at 800-263-6317. And last but not least, several minutes after the webinar, you'll get an email with a link to a very short survey. We really need your feedback on today's session, so be sure to complete the survey and so we know what you thought. So let's go ahead and jump in then. State-of-the-art lead management. This is part of the Educational Market Association's overriding commitment to adding maximum value and helping exhibitors get results from the trade shows. And as part of this, you and your team have unlimited web access to a series of live and replayable webinars on the topics that make the difference between success and failure. So you'll want to check those out. This session will be recorded and uploaded to the webinar series also. So be sure to check there. For some of you, maybe you've seen me around. I've been around the trade show game what feels like forever, almost 30 years. Exhibited a lot of shows. To me, it's always been about results. It's never been just show up, fly the flag, hand out some tchotchkes, and go home. I've been really a student and a practitioner, not only in my own companies, but with the many companies I've trained and consulted with, and developed some really good processes that make a difference. Combined, my clients have been able to pull over $650 million in results from shows. If you ever want to talk, call me, 800-700-6174. Drop me an email, and be sure to also submit your questions during today's webcast. So let's jump in here. Let's talk about leads, okay? I want to kind of get our mental pumps primed here, if you will. In your workbook, you'll see a little box here, and I want you to just very quickly answer 4 quick questions. Number 1, in the overall success of your exhibiting program, how important are leads? Critical? Important? Somewhat? Not really? Not? Do you set specific lead goals for shows? Yes or no? And if you say yes, how do you go about doing that? Do you just look at last year's lead count and maybe say, well, let's go for 10% more? Or how do you do that? Third is, how do you physically capture leads in the booth now? And we're going to do a poll on this during the webcast, so go ahead and jot that down in your workbook. And last but not least, do you know what becomes of your leads? You capture these leads. If you're a manufacturer sending them through a dealer, distributor, or rep group, do you know what becomes of the leads? Okay, so these are 4 major questions to kind of get us on topic here, on point about what we're going to dive into today. Okay, so let me go ahead and launch the first poll. I would like to find out what's happening in terms of the area of setting specific lead goals for shows. Does your company set specific goals, yes or no? Go ahead, you'll see the poll on your screen right now. Click the radio dial button that applies. You've got the options of yes, no, somewhat, it's kind of loose. So go ahead and take a moment, click the radio dial button that applies. I'll give you just a second on this, see where we're at. Okay, we're at about 70% of participants have voted. If you haven't voted yet, take a quick peek, press your button, go ahead and submit, and I'll share the results with the group in just a moment. Ready? Good. That pushes to 80%. Thank you. Here we go. I want to show you what's happening as a group here. Okay, so it looks like we're in the only 2 out of 10 of us set firm specific lead goals. The other 60% aren't really setting goals at all, and 20% are kind of in that somewhat range where you're somewhat. Okay, so let's talk about this lead thing for a minute, okay? Some of the key insights on trade show leads and lead management, okay? If you want return on investment, financial dollars back from your trade show investment, and you're not signing deals at the show, then what you've got to really understand here is that the real product of a show is leads. And so anybody who's online with me today and saying, hey, we want measurable ROI, and yet we aren't in a situation where we sign deals, then we've got to really pay attention to this area of your program. Okay, so the second point is, according to research, exhibition industry research that is conducted every year through the Trade Show Trend Study, we're finding today that 87% of the leads captured are never followed up on. This is a mind-blowing statistic. It's costing us as exhibitors hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in lost revenue opportunities. It's frustrating the attendees that go to shows that are entering booths, requesting follow-up and information and not getting it. Nobody's winning from that statistic. So we got to make sure that you know, any lead worth taking is worth following up on, and we are going to follow up on them, or let's not take them, okay? Number 3 is, this is an interesting one, is that 3 out of 4 salespeople view trade show leads as cold calls. Now, I want you to think about that one for a moment. 3 out of 4 people view trade show leads as a cold call. That's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? A person walks into your booth, engages your staff, information gets exchanged, and the people receiving the lead view it as a cold call. Wow, what's going on there? We're going to have to really talk about that and how to overcome that problem. Because if they view it as a cold call, they're probably not following up on them, okay? Number 4 is another mind-blowing, staggering statistic that 43% of people that go to trade shows with purchase intent receive information from exhibitors after they've made a buying decision. I'll talk about being too late to the dance. The information's getting there after the buyer's already made a decision. So another one of these mind-blowing statistics about this trade show lead conundrum, if you will. And I think number 5, that a big part of the problem here, it's twofold. Number 1, it's perspectives in how people see leads. And second, it's practices in terms of the capture process. So we're going to take a look at that in fine detail today and help you improve that area of your game. And number 6 is, the reality is most exhibitors really don't know what is becoming of their leads. They lack what I like to call a closed loop lead management system. So we're going to talk into that. So these are some pretty, I think, eye-opening insights on this trade show lead management situation. And a lot of them are not good. A lot of them point to significant room for improvement. So I think the obvious question is, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Well, number 1, I saw a cartoon years back in Business Marketing magazine that brought it home for me. It said, question, what's the difference between most trade show leads and a fortune cookie? Answer, the fortune cookie might come true. And while there's some humor to that cartoon, it speaks to a very real problem, and that is the perceived quality of trade show leads. Okay, we said that 3 out of 4 sales reps view them as cold calls. And so this is an area, as exhibit, as marketing, as sales managers, we got to do a better job improving the quality of what we're getting. And it is very possible, as I'm going to show you how to do it in this webinar. The marketing and sales disconnect. Marketing selects the show, books the show, gets it set up. Sales is asked or forced to staff it or work it. And often we're not on the same page. You know, we're in silos. Sales is not really understanding the true trade show opportunity. and they're coming to the show with what I like to call a get through versus a get from attitude. Okay, and so we got to get on the same page and really understand that the power of trade shows when they're done properly. The third factor that's driving this lead problem is the lack of exhibit staff training. 86% of people standing on the show floor have never had an hour of skills training in how to do it. And they're making behavioral mistakes and they're making communication mistakes that are limiting booth traffic, reducing lead quantity, and severely limiting lead quality. So exhibit staff training is a very smart investment of time and resources, knowing that trade shows are about face and any real results you get are going to come from converting leads to action sales. Okay. The fourth thing that's contributing is lack of clarity on what a lead really is, as I'll explain in a moment. And the fifth is this lack of a closed loop system. So what I want to ask you right now is that as you look at these 5 reasons that are causing the lead problem, how many of these are prevalent or visible in your organization? How many of these 5? You may want to put a circle or a check mark around those right now. And that'll help you not only get more content from today's webinar, but also know what you've got to do going forward to get serious results from your show investment. Okay, so speaking of show investment, grab a pen, grab a calculator if you have one handy. I'm going to run a couple formulas here to kind of so we can start getting in touch with the financial impact of not managing this leads properly. The first metric is your cost per lead, and it is a very simple formula to get to. You just take the total show investment and divide it by the number of leads you captured. So in this example here, $75,000 show investment divided by 150 leads, $500 cost per lead. I think everybody that you give leads to, dealer, distributor, rep, whether it's a company rep or an independent rep, I think they need to know what your cost per lead is. And I think you should be communicating, hey, it's just like me handing you, if you give, let's say you give a distributor 10 leads that you paid $500 for, that's $5,000 of your company's capital tied up. I think they need to know that. I think they need to treat it as if you gave them a check for $5,000 and said, I want to see this in the bank by Friday. So let's start calculating cost per lead and communicating it to everybody that we're giving leads to. Second, let's calculate the potential gain or the potential loss by not managing our leads properly. So to do this, the first number you got to get to is a ballpark. What is an average sale amount for your company? In my example, it's $25,000. Next, you're going to take the number of leads you capture and you're going to use some conservative conversion percentage, meaning if I handed you 10 qualified leads, conservatively, how many of those would you expect to convert to business over time? In my example, it's 1 out of 4. Maybe yours is 1 out of 10. I don't know what your number is, but these are numbers I want you to look into. And now, the real revenue opportunity is if you follow up properly and convert, you've got a potential revenue gain here in this example of almost $1 million. On the other side, I'll say that if you don't follow up, you've got a potential revenue loss of almost $1 million. That's a lot of money to let slide through our fingers because we don't have a good lead management system in play. Okay, and the third thing that I want you to think about, this one's from your company's brand perceptions in the marketplace. I want you to think about when a dealer, a distributor, an end user, a lot of end users coming into the show nowadays, they want follow-up and you don't follow up. I want you to ask yourself, how does that impact your company's brand perception in the marketplace? It's not good. So as you can see, there are some very legitimate, real costs of lead management, both positive and negative. There's a lot to gain. There's a lot to lose here we got to make sure that everybody understands these things, that if a lead is worth taking, it's worth following up on, okay? So to do this, we've got to really look at, do we have a closed loop lead management system in place? Because here's what I want to say before I actually detail the system. A lot of you are getting a significant return on your show investment, but you can't see it. Therefore, you don't know that you're getting it. A school district comes and visits you at the show, and you maybe capture the lead, pass it to a dealer distributor, and 6 months down the road, there's a $200,000 order that comes in, and had you not been at the show, you wouldn't have got the order. You wouldn't have found the opportunity. But when it comes to fruition, closure, you have no way of tracing it back. So you don't really know that the show played a role, okay? And yet, if that was your first point of contact and you found the opportunity at the show and forwarded it to a dealer distributor and it converts to business, the show definitely played a role, because you probably might not have found the opportunity otherwise. But you don't have a closed loop system, so you don't have any way of tracking this. So let's talk about the 4 phases here. In blue, the cold part of it is capture. We're looking for quality, not quantity. And we're going to walk you through how to develop a system that gets better quality leads. Second, you got to move them fast. The routing, it's red, it's hot. Get these leads into the hands of the right people for fast follow-up. Second. Third, then the follow-up has to happen. This is the green part of the loop where the money, okay, converting, commitments to action, purchasing action, and the money starts coming in. And then fourth, we got to set up a method that makes it easy for our reps, dealers, distributors to report on progress and the ultimate sales conversion of the lead. So how many of these 4 phases, where's your blind spots? Where's your gaps in the closed loop? Okay, because if you're doing these 4 things, you've got a closed loop in play. If you're not, you don't have a closed loop. And if you're ever going to measure hard dollar return on investment, you're going to have to work on closing the loop on your leads. Especially a lot of you are manufacturers or principals that are selling through either exclusive or non-exclusive dealer-distributor relationships. And so you've got to work on this, if you ever want ROI, okay? So let's jump into some real blocking and tackling stuff here, Number one, let's define what is and what isn't a lead, okay? I'll tell you what defines a lead for me. There was personal interaction with my staff. Questions, good qualifying questions were asked. The answers were captured, documented. The next step was identified and agreed to by the visitor. You give me 50 of those, I'll convert 10 to 20 of those to business consistently. You give me 500, just a swipe or a scan, sure, I'll send you some information, or business cards in a fishbowl, or worse yet, ending up in somebody's pocket. You'll be lucky to convert 5 of those, if that, to sales. So let's make sure that when we say lead, that we're talking about 4 specific criteria. And let's make sure that everybody on our exhibit team knows this, because this is how we start to improve lead quality. Just because someone walks in the booth and, at some point says, could you send me some information? Are you going to call that a lead? Maybe. To me, it's more like an inquiry. But if I've engaged, I've asked good questions, I've captured documented answers, and I've got a next step identified and agreed by the visitor, now I've got a lead. That's what I'm on the hunt for, okay? How do you set lead goals? Well, most companies have no science in how they do it, outside of, well, how many did we get last year? Oh, we got 20 leads last year, so let's go for 25 this year. Is 25 high? Is it low? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it realistic? I don't know. I think there's a better way to do this, and I want to share what that is right now. And it's based off a formula we've taught through several of our other programs for Ed Spaces and Ed Expo called Exhibit Interaction Capacity. And here's what it looks like. Okay, so you take the number of hours in the show and you multiply it by the number of booth staff, and that will give you your total staff hours. Then you take a target number of interactions per hour per staffer. 3 to 5 is the range. 3 is conservative, 4 is moderate, 5 is aggressive. And you multiply it to come up with a total number of interactions. Now listen carefully here. Not all interactions are going to convert to leads. Some percentage will. The question you need to be asking is, what percentage? I will share with you, with my almost 30 years experience, and I've worked in about every industry with every type and size of company you can imagine, 1 out of 4 is a very realistic, doable target. 1 out of 4 visitors convert to lead. Now I have got a very clear lead goal for the show. By closing time at Ed Spaces, we will have captured at least 42 qualified leads. And I didn't pull this number out of the air. This is, I've used reality, okay? The reality of the situation to set the lead goal. And this works. This works. I just came back from a show in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And my client had a lead goal of 90 qualified leads. By the end of day 2, we were at 78. And I'm expecting us to end up at about 110. And that wasn't an accident number. It came from this formula. Okay, so use this formula. It's simple. It's easy to apply. And then just put your booth staff on task. Go, hey, for every hour you're in the booth, I'm looking for you to have 3 good face-to-face, one-to-one interactions. I'm looking for 1 out of 4 of your interactions to convert to lead. And you'll be amazed if you put your booth staff on task and give them a target, what a difference it'll make in the end results of your show. So let's start setting realistic lead goals using math and science, not just how did we do last year, should we do more, should we do less, okay? The next action step is I want you to engage your dealers, your distributors, your sales staff, and I want you to ask them, what information besides name, address, phone, email address, if we were to capture this, would help you better understand the value and make you want to follow up on the lead. And so ask them about what information, so you can see there's many things that we could be capturing. Do they have a specific need, project, or application? Are there any specific requirements or specs around that? What products are they interested in? How high is the interest? What is their buying role or influence? What is the evaluation process, and who makes up the evaluation or decision team? What competitors are they currently using or looking at? Budget, money, finance, where are they at in that window? The time frame for the evaluation, the time frame for the purchase, the time frame for the next step. What is this next specific step? So you should be integrating as much of this type of qualifying information into your lead capture process as possible. Then you should be training your staff on guiding the conversation and asking the right questions to get this information. Because if you'll get more information and your dealer, distributor, sales team has collaborated on building your capture system, now you're starting to get buy-in on follow-up and reporting. Okay? So that's your next step. Let's identify. Don't just accept what's embedded in the badge. Know what's embedded in the badge, but don't just accept that that's all you can and should be getting. You may never have this chance again when you're standing face-to-face with this person. Get more information, okay? And tell your team that. We may never have this chance again. Let's not squander this, okay? Getting sales teams and distributors to support your process, number one is engage them and communicate your commitment to improve the quality of leads you're giving them. Okay, that's your first step. Let them know you are on a lead quality improvement process. As I mentioned earlier, calculate and share cost per lead. Let them know what you're paying for these leads, because you are paying for these leads. Set 3 specific reporting dates. It might be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It might be 45 days, 90 days, 180 days. Set those dates and get agreement on them that on these dates we want to hear back. Where are you with the leads that we give you? To build some excitement and prime the pump for follow-up, consider contests as a way to acknowledge and reward. Okay, you might say that the dealer that gets the highest percentage of their leads to a in-person appointment within 30 days wins X. You might say the dealer that gets the highest percentage of their leads to a written quote or proposal within 90 days wins Y. And you might say the dealer or distributor that converts the highest percentage of their leads to closed business within 180 days wins Z. And you could see how you could have those rewards get bigger based on the result. The first result was in-person appointment. Second result was quote or proposal. Third result was closed business. Okay? And this is a great way to get them to want to follow up. Okay? Now, if you do all this stuff and they're still not following up, well, I tell you what, you might want to consider selling your leads to dealers, distributors who either won't follow up or won't report. If you paid $500 for a lead, would it be reasonable to ask $50 per lead if they're not going to follow up? Otherwise, I don't know. You know, you may want to look at whether you should be working with this company. Maybe there's someone else that would do a better job. But, you know, you're the one who put the money up as the manufacturer. You're the one who's got the most skin in the game here, okay? And if you paid $500 a lead, would it be reasonable for those that are not following up to say, hey, you know, if you're not going to follow up or not report, I guess I shouldn't give you leads, or maybe I should be charging you for leads. I'm not going to charge you what I paid for it, but I think it's fair that something, you know. So I don't know, $25, $50. I tell you this, if they pay you $25 or $50 a lead, what are the chances they're going to follow up on it? Pretty high, pretty high. You just hand them 20 leads with no information, no cost per lead, no commitment to follow up, no dates, no contests, no ability. What are the chances they follow up? I don't know. Not so good, you know. So let's talk about your capture device right now. I want to do another quick poll here. How do you currently capture leads in the booth? What is your physical capture device? Take a look on the screen. The poll is up. Okay, go ahead and click the radio dial button that applies. Fastest fingers. Let me see what we're doing here as a group. You'll get a chance to see what you're doing relative to the average. Okay, we're at about 50-70% of votes, so a few more votes in and I'll share. Here we go. Thank you. Hey, thanks for your participation on this too. We got 85% in. So here we go. Let's take a peek. All right. So 55% of us are in the first generation of lead capture, the business card. 27% are using a paper lead form. 9% are renting and customizing, and 9% of you own your own capture device. Okay, so let's talk about these generations of capture device and where we need to be. Okay, the first generation is the business card. And I'm not saying you don't take business cards, but I'm saying I don't think it should be your document of entry nor your primary capture device. Why? Business cards end up in people's pockets. You don't even know they got it. They end up in the laundry, the dry cleaning, card's gone. Business cards, how much information can you actually write or capture on a business card? Not much, okay? A lot of people's business cards, the way they're designed, whether it is the coding or the color, you can't put any notes on it. So the other problem too is you don't want the attendee to walk into the booth and hand you their badge to scan and you can't scan it. I want you to think about the first impression you're sending if that's the reality. Okay, so let's move to the electronic as fast as we can. The paper lead form, I think it still works, and I think it's a great augment to the electronic system, especially if you're going to do custom qualifiers, the ability to capture it on paper quickly and then enter it into the lead capture after the interaction. So I think the paper forms do have a place. Okay, and I think you can design a really good opportunity card or solution card like you're seeing on the left here on the screen. But I think all of us should have when there's an electronic capture system available, we should have it. I just think it's a mistake to have a brand new potential buyer hand you a card to scan and you can't do it. Okay? Those of you that are in the universal lead capture system, you're playing this game at the highest level. And some of you, the next technology now is the ability to get this on smartphone and tablets, which is where we're headed. Okay, so let's look at what we're doing. Okay, the official show lead retrieval vendor is RCS, and you will see their phone number, their email address, and the URL up on this page. And I think it's important that you take a look at the different options that are available for electronic lead capture. And as best as possible, I think you should be customizing those. Where portability, the ability to capture leads not only all around the exhibit hall, but all around the venue. You know, the Expo Smart looks like a good choice that can be, it's an app that can be downloaded to Androids or iOS phones. Pretty smart way to go, okay? Especially when you want to, again, you know, I can get a lead out in the lunch area, in the hotel lobby, really anywhere. Okay, so it's got a lot of value. And I think also having a unit fixed or at your booth, just in case the people with the smartphones aren't there. Custom qualifiers, only 3% of exhibiting companies use custom qualifiers. Find out what the unsuccessful exhibitor is doing and don't do it. The unsuccessful exhibitor is not customizing their qualification process. Do that. That one behavior in and of itself is the fast track to improving lead quality. Okay, and another cool thing that RCS has built in is the Expo Action. It automatically sends a text-based email letting attendees know that you've scanned their booth and thanking them, and it gives the attendees a way also to know where they stopped and who to watch for information for. So these are a couple really low-cost, high-value add-on options to your capture device. I like them both, and I think that's really smart money to have both. Okay, so let's throw it open quickly for questions. Anything that is flashed in your mind on your console, you will see a box there that says questions. Just type your question, press send. So anything that is flashed in your mind, go ahead and submit. And while you're thinking about that, so I can make sure we get through all of the content, I'm going to move forward, okay? All right. Not all leads are created equal, and it's amazing, you know, how few companies have literally defined grading or priority of leads, you know. So this is an example of how you can use different criteria to grade your leads. You know, as we said earlier, you know, one of the reasons why people aren't following up on leads because they think they're not quality leads. Well, what if you had a good grading system in play here, okay? That when they got the lead, they knew that the time frame was within 3 months. There's a budget secured, and this is a final say or specifier. I imagine that lead's going to get some very quick action. So I'm going to ask you to sit down and ask yourself what criteria would define lead quality for you, and how can you build a simple grid like this so before you send the lead, you can grade it and send it as an A, B, or a C lead. Hot, warm, cold, 1, 2, 3, however you might want to say that. You can see my criteria: time frame, budget, and buying it role. Okay, very important piece of the puzzle here. Next, you got to train your staff on, you can't just create this and go, here guys, use this. You've got to get them involved, collaborating on what data to capture, communicate why you're building the system, how it helps them. You want to build accountability by setting firm lead goals for shows. You definitely want to give them hands-on role-playing using the device before the show. If you rent a system and the morning of the show say, here guys, we're going to be using this today, they're not going to use it well. Okay, so get that hands-on role-playing device in your pre-show meeting, ideally the day prior to the show or early the morning before, but they got to physically use it. And again, I'm a really big believer on when I want to create excitement and behavioral change in getting some contests in play, maybe splitting them in an A-B team during the course of the show and having daily or end-of-show contests. Okay, so you got to train your staff on this. Next practice, you need a lead captain. You see the guy up there in the corner? You need somebody in your booth that you don't want to go to him at the end of the day and say, my lead goal was 6 and I only got 1. Okay, it's the idea with a lead captain. The lead captain has very specific responsibilities, as you'll see on the screen here. Not only are they're often setting the goal, but they're communicating it, make sure everybody knows. They're making sure your devices are available and functioning. They're tracking or monitoring lead on an end of shift, hour by hour, end of day. They're acknowledging people who are doing well, and they're correcting people who are not. They may be the person that ensures the data gets into your CRM system, and they might even be your post-show point of contact for reporting. Somebody's got to wear the lead captain hat. Who is it? Okay, have you thought about that, and do you have a lead captain? Very important step. Next, only route good leads. Okay, one of the primary reasons for poor follow-up is the poor quality of leads that are being sent out. For some companies, a post-show re-qualification process where the leads are sent back to the home office, either a phone call or an email is sent just to confirm information and fill in any gaps. This is a way to really show your dealer distributors that you're sending super high quality leads to them. You got to move them fast, though. Don't let a lot of time slide between close a show. The value of a trade show lead diminishes by 15% per week unless the visitor requested a longer time frame. So move quick, get these leads out, okay? Give, whoever's going to follow up, give them all of the relevant data that you captured in the lead. Give them the complete picture, okay? And then depending on what you're doing, if you have a CRM system, you could be assigning follow-up and tracking through it. Okay, some of you maybe don't have a CRM-based system, so maybe you are going to just use a simple spreadsheet. Okay, or maybe a web-based app like Salesforce.com or something like that. But you definitely got to have a tool for seeing all these leads in one place and being able to check the ultimate follow-up on these leads. Okay. A culture of reporting. You know, a lot of companies lack this. You know, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of companies, and very few have a real strong culture of reporting accountability. So we got to start building that into our program. I talked about communicating cost per lead. If it's a house sales rep, then you should inform that person's manager or direct report. We've talked about contests and the importance of those both at and post-show. Your end of shift or your end of day lead review meeting is big, okay, a key part of making sure that we're hitting our quantity and quality goals. The close of show report that you, the exhibit or marketing manager, prepares in terms of here's our goal, here's our actual, here's our cost per lead, here's the number broken down by priority code, and then here's the potential value of each lead. So we can see what form of value we're creating for our company. And then you've got to prepare your follow-up plan before the show. I saw a research recently that said it takes the average exhibitor 25 days to process leads, meaning by the time they get back from the show, before anything real happens with a lead, 25 days passes. That is way too long. So let's sit down before the show and let's say, what does an A lead look like? What does a B lead? What does a C lead look like? Number one. Then let's figure out, how do we want to touch these people after the show? Email, mail, social media, telephone, in-person visits, media. Then think about your messaging. Think about at a high level, what do we want these follow-up messages from thank you for visiting to here's the information you requested to what does the messaging look like? Then we got to preset our time frames here. You know, that thank you is going to go out, you know, within 24 hours. The mailer with the information, or if it's going email, will be within 3 days. The first, you know, see what I mean? You'll set all these follow-up time frames, and then you'll assign responsibility for each of the follow-up phases into who's going to be doing what and when. And if you're using like Salesforce.com or Goldmine or Act or any of these contact management software applications, you can automate a lot of this, where there's different like tracks they can run on. You hit it in and it'll automatically drop in, and you can pre-write emails and pre-write letters and pre-write phone scripts, and all of this can be built into your CRM system. Okay, but we got to have our follow-up thought too. What you don't want to do is come back from the show out of the office for a week and then go on vacation for a week, and then you come back and the leads are still sitting there. I saw another study that was interesting, and in something like 70% of situations, the company who follows up first, fastest, wins the business 7 out of 10 times. I like those odds. Let's be out there. Let's be first in our follow-up, okay? So we've covered a lot of ground here today. We're at the 45-minute point. I have shared a lot of information on the importance of leads, the problems with leads, how to improve quality, how to manage quantity, how to get your dealer distributor reps to want to follow up, you know, your lead captain. It's important that you take as much of this as you can and you apply it for your upcoming show. Because again, if you're ever going to get ROI and you're not signing deals at the show, the real product, the real take-home for you is leads. Let's get control of our leads. Let's cover what I like to call the lead black hole. Let's cover it. The actions that I've presented today have helped my clients cover the cover. Combined, we've pulled over $650 million out of shows. This stuff works, but you've got to work it. And you have a great partner with the Educational Market Association in terms of a great show, great audience, great support, and great education on how to make it work. Okay, so make sure that you're dialing in on that. Now, I'm going to take a look at the question queue, and this will be your chance to fire with any questions you may have. Those of you who are going to log off right now, be sure that you go to edspaces.com/webinars, bookmark this page, share it with everybody on your exhibiting team, watch the webinars, this one and the other ones that are up there, and we'll continue to build that for you as a free online knowledge portal. Okay, so let me take a look at the question queue. Okay. Can these systems work with Salesforce for easy download? Yeah, there's a lot of ways to integrate what I've talked about in here with Salesforce. In terms of one of the best practices would be to your user-definable fields, the fields in Salesforce that you want to capture. You want those to match the information that you're capturing in the booth, and then when you capture it and you upload it, you can transfer from the electronic lead capture file right into the field in Salesforce.com that it needs to go into. So yes. Let's see. We've got another one here. I don't know that this is a question, but let me try to understand and respond to this. Can you talk about the importance of consistently being at a show and competitive blocking? This might be more important for companies that are well known in an industry. New leads are less important for a company that is new to the industry. Let me speak to this from two angles. Number one, let me define a lead at a much higher level than just a brand new business opportunity, okay? Because sometimes when we think leads, we kind of pigeonhole that and go, well, that's just a new op. Well, here's how I define a lead. Anybody you interact with at the show that requires a next action, and that next action delivers value for your company, that is a lead. That could be an existing customer with a satisfaction issue. That could be an existing customer where your champion inside the account is getting ready to retire or move on. Any one of these could flag actions that could have positive or negative ramifications if you don't follow up. So anybody. Now, the importance of staying visible and staying present. Here's a saying for you. Out of sight is out of mind. Out of sight is out of mind. So presence certainly is one of the leading reasons why companies should be at shows. I don't think it should be the only end-all be-all reason, but I think it is one of the key reasons. And I think it is very important that all of us remain visible to our marketplace. Okay, and one of the best ways you can do that is to really execute great exhibits at the right industry shows like EdSpaces and EdExpo. So staying visible is important. Leads are a lot more than just a brand new contact or a new opportunity, and we got to really get control of this. Got another question, how many lead capture devices should I have in the booth? My answer to that is, well, it depends on the number of people. Minimally 1 for every 4 booth staffers. So if you're in a larger booth, you don't want to have just 1, but think about the number of booth staff. But also think about portability and the importance of being able to capture leads around the venue outside of the booth. And that would come into play in terms of the number of capture devices also. Okay, we have covered the content. You've got some real practical takeaways here. With that, I'm going to toss it back to Michael and Joe for closing comments from Education Market Association.
Well, thank you, Jefferson. I would just like to say thank you to all of those who attended, and I know that a lot of times after this there's follow-up questions that may come to mind either for us or for Jefferson. So with any of those, you can always get a hold of us at exhibits@ed-spaces.com. That's our email address. Or you can also reach us here in the office at 800-395-5550, either one of those if you have a question specific to the show or you have questions regarding the content from today's webinar that we can go ahead and follow up on. That's all we have for you today. So thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at Ed Spaces.